Alright, hell yeah. So we have a pretty complicated statics problem, and this video is all about not being perfect. Now, I'm just telling myself this. It might be helpful to you. The other thing is, I don't even know what the other thing is, so we're just going to get into it. But hell yeah, that's kind of, oh yeah, don't be afraid to say wrong things. And that's one of the, you know what I mean, caution for my video. A lot of my videos, I might say the wrong thing, but it's very important to my learning and education, because the second I say something wrong, like I'll watch my video and, you know, I'll just be like, no, that doesn't sound right. And literally, you know, within the day or the next couple days, the answers will probably come to you just because you put so much emphasis into, you know, throwing yourself out there. But if you don't have a guess, or you don't even just guess wrong, or say something that you probably know is wrong but just go for it, then you're less likely to kind of come up with the answers. So, you know, even right now I feel like I'm rambling, so let's just get to the meat. This one is difficult because we have, well, one, it's just on the verge of being like an indeterminate, you know what I mean? But we can know all the forces going on. But this one has a force at a pin, and that's going to be kind of unique. Because even if we didn't, we're going to analyze this without the force at a pin. And even one of the aspects about statics that, I don't know, I just don't think it's very intuitive, is that if you separate both these components, whatever forces you have here, like an up and to the right, you're going to have the equal and opposite over here. So we have 20 minutes on the clock. That's kind of what we're going to analyze. So, and this was sent in to me by a German student. Now, if you're actually doing problems, for sure, that is exactly what I want. You know, so send me problems that you are doing. Even if you already have done them, like I might do them a different way. So it doesn't have to be something that like you don't know how to do, but it makes me more motivated is if you have a problem that you have some sort of investment into. And I can kind of tell in the comments if it's just like, hey, can you cover this topic? You know what I mean? Be specific, and I'll try to reach out if someone's like, hey, can you cover this broad topic? I'll be like, hey, pick one problem from that topic area that you're working on that you want me to cover, because motivation is king. Alright, hell yeah. So now we're just kind of wasting time. But that's what this video is about, is just trying to throw stuff out there. So this student really, you know what I mean, went for it and kind of got the right idea right off the bat. And it even says if a force acts on a joint, this force is attached to either one half or the other. You can't say this is two forces acting on both. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate these two components. And so over here you put the force over there. And then over here you put the force over there. So hell yeah. But even that, it's just like this trips me up because it just doesn't seem like intuition. So what we're going to do is try to kind of figure out if we can kind of intuit what's going on. And so let's see if I can go through all scenarios, or the scenarios that I wanted to go through. So when I actually did this problem, I said, hey, like this member is going to be like this, and this member is going to be like that. And this pin connection, we're actually going to have a pin that goes through them. Now this is going to be a third thing going through here. And so when I identify this, and I think this is a pretty decent way to look at it. And just to show you what else you could do, is you don't have to have the pin separate. You could have the pin, so now this is this member, and then here's the other member, and then this is the pin, but it's welded or physically attached to this side. And then we're going to do that. So this is the pin. And then we can put the force, and we'll talk about where you can put the force. Or I could say that, hey, this is this side, and then this is the pin. Okay, hell yeah. So now let's go back to this scenario, because I think it might be the easiest one to visualize. Because we have like, hey, a third thing in here. And now where are we going to put the force? Because even this, it says if a force acts on a joint, this force is attached to one half of the beam divided along the joint. So you have to pick whatever half that's going to be. Alright, hell yeah. So we have 15 minutes. So anyway, so I'm going to say that instead of picking a half, just pick the pin as what we're going to put the force on. And so, and this is what really excites me about physics, is you can start off with Newton's laws of motion. So the first thing that I like to do is just like, hey, let's say you have just a little chunk of mass, and what I really like to do is just pretend like it's in outer space. That's the quickest way to get there. I also like to say that it's like the only thing in the universe. Okay, hell yeah. And then we're going to apply a force to this mass. Now, an easy way to do that on Earth is like, well, just put it on a frictionless surface, and then like a frictionless table, and then have a pulley, and then attach it to just a huge, like a black hole of mass. Or I mean, I guess we're on Earth, we got to make it. But I mean, this thing weighs 200 pounds. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can imagine that. And someone's, two people are holding on to it, and they're going to let this go. And this just weighs 1 kilogram. You know what I mean? So this is going to apply a force on this, and hell yeah, this thing is going to move. You know what I mean? And you put a huge amount of force. Anyway, I guess just in general, going back, I think it's easier just to go back to a block in outer space. You put any type of force on this block, it's going to move in that direction. It's going to change its velocity. Okay, so this is the fundamentals of classical Newtonian mechanics. It's like if you have a mass, the only way you can change, and I always liked, I think the easiest case is just imagine this mass has no velocity. You know what I mean? Time 0, velocity 0. And then we're gonna make it move. I think that's the easiest thing to say, is like, hey, something's stationary, it's a mass, we're gonna make it move. And to make it move, you have to change its velocity from 0 to some velocity, and that's going to require a force. So that's kind of Newton's laws. And Newton says if you have a force, on a mass, regardless of whatever its initial velocity is, it is going to change velocity. It's going to increase in velocity in this direction. It's going to get faster and faster because of F equals ma. So that's the principle. And how do we use this for a statics problem? Because we said we had this pin, and I just realized it's difficult for me not to make just 3-hour videos. But anyway, so we have this pin, and I'm going to put a force up on this pin. I could either put 2 half forces on either side, so like both my fingers are pulling up, or I can just say, hey, I'm just going to grab it and then lift it up with a force. Okay, so that's the first thing that we see, is we can add this force to this pin. But due to Newton's laws, what's going to happen to this pin if I put a force on it? It is going to first go from 0 velocity. In 1 second, it's going to reach some sort of velocity, but it's going to keep increasing. So, if this was kind of in a free fall on a different planet, maybe the moon, let's say, if I put a force on it, it might do something like this. We go slow, and then it kind of picks up speed. All right, hell yeah. So that's just the general idea. If I have a force on this, it's stationary, and I apply an upward force, it's going to change velocity. But then, this is the cool thing about statics, is like we can set up a scenario where we apply a force to a pin, and guess what? It doesn't move. So that's kind of fascinating. So that's kind of like, I don't know what the actual numbers are on Newton's laws, but that's kind of like, hey, if you do apply a force to this mass, and you apply a known force. Like, let's say I am, so like in this scenario, I am applying a 200-pound weight on this side. In this rope, that is going to be a force in that direction. But guess what? Even in this scenario, let's say this block did not move. You know what I mean? You're just like, well, how could that be? Well, maybe this is a wooden table, and this is a wooden 1 kilogram block, and all we had to do is actually just glue it to the table. Okay, so this glue is applying a force in that direction equal to the tension in this. So this force is equal to that force, and we have no change in velocity. But the only way to get this thing to not be moving that way is if there's an equal force, like tugging pushing, like either tugging or pushing on it this way, pushing or pulling on it in that direction. All right, hell yeah. So we're halfway, you know what I mean? I'm only going to do a one-shot video just because my computer is, I had a whole 5 terabit hard drive crash, and I'm using disk drive, cost about 110 bucks, but I can recover all the I had 5 terabytes of information on it, so it went kaput. And so that's just how much it costs to salvage that. So it's kind of a bummer. You're out 100 bucks, and then the USB drive. Hopefully I can format it so I don't lose the external hard drive. Anyway, so I'm just wasting time. All right, so this is the crux, and it's just so fascinating. This is why I just like make this video. Is just like, well, I'm not even getting on to the stuff that I don't know. So let's get to that. Anyway, so what we have is that if I put a force up on this thing is going to move, but we go back to, you know, this setup, and we see that it's not moving. So the only way for this thing to not be changing its velocity up is if it has an equal and opposite force down. Cool. And then so the first thing to do is like, well, what is this attached? What is this pin in contact with? You know what I mean? So the first two things I see, it's in contact with this, and it's in contact with this. So both these have an equal, maybe have an equal opportunity to put a downward force. So this is how I did this problem. You know what I mean, just from an intuition, is I went over here and I kind of looked at this piece, and you have to separate these pieces individually. We have a pin here, so that's just kind of doing this, and then we have a pin here. But this is literally, you can imagine like a door on a hinge, and just imagine the door is massless, because this problem is using massless beams. These forces are much, much greater than the actual weight of the beams. Or you're just saying, hey, this thing is sideways on a table. I'm going to throw that in there. It's just like anytime you're doing a statics problem, even though like you have earth underneath and you could have weights on these beams, you can still turn the project sideways, put it on a table, and anywhere that you have a weight on these beams, you could do this scenario. Just imagine this table, and then you are having a pulley, kind of a pulley here on a string, and then it's dropped down to whatever weight is applying a force, you know, on that. And I mean, these are tricky. If you put a mass here, then like obviously, well, no, this is exactly that. If this is massless, you're not pulling on any mass right here. So then, hell yeah, this mass under the weight of the Earth is going to apply a force of mg. So that's going to be the force of gravity. And hell yeah, it's just another way to visualize it. The other way that I like to visualize these problems is just like, hell yeah, just take this thing and then put it into outer space. You know what I mean? So that's, and then even if you did have weights, you mean those are just forces. You can you know, this is my go-to currently of like if I'm visualizing a force, I'm going to visualize this. Just because it's just like, well, what is a force? Well, this is the easiest one because the force of gravity is what we're very, very used to. Damn it. And we only have 6 minutes. And like I said, it's just a one-shot video. So, all right, are we getting to any of the juice? Not really. Okay, so, oh yeah, so let me just speed it up then. So this thing is just hinged over here, and so let's say we have that. Let's say I just have this thing hinged, and it's just floating in outer space. Now, is it going to take any effort, and I'll do it this way, just so it's like kind of floating in outer space, is it going to take any effort to put a force to move this massless door? It's just really interesting that I chose some heavy-ass steel, because you can totally tell this thing is not massless. But if this was just floating in outer space, it would take no force to move a massless door on a hinge. You know what I mean? So so with that said, if we go back to this this setup, and I apply an upward force on this one over here can't apply any downward force. You know what I mean? Because I'm just opening up the door on that side, and no force. It requires no force to move this massless door about a hinge. Cool. But with that said, you know what I mean? We also have something over here that's a moment, and that's literally like welding a little. It'd be like welding this with a little handlebar, or like a little steering wheel that you would then turn, and then that would torque this that way. So this is able to apply a force over there by having a moment. And so this is what I did, is just like this moment is like a couple where you actually twist. You're either turning the handlebars this way, and you're turning this that way. So there now is a force on my finger. And it's just so interesting. I thought I was going to have time to cover all 3 scenarios, but I guess I'm not. I'm barely going to be able to cover this one scenario, but at least you get to visualize it. So if I torque this downward, hell yeah, then it's going to move that way. There's nothing, if I do a torque over here, just this one, there's nothing to prevent it from just rotating if I apply this moment. So that's where I need, if I'm applying this moment, then I need some sort of upward force. And it just happens that this FA moment is the same amount of force up on this pin. If I put this FA moment, then there's going to be a force on my finger of F. So if I have this pin and I push up on this force and apply this FA moment, now those are going to balance. So hell yeah. And we're set. This pin is no longer traveling in outer space vertically. So now what the hell happens over here? Well, this thing is just stiff. Even if this wasn't stiff and it was hinged there, this is massless. So even if it was hanging down, it's massless. It's applying no force anywhere. But and also it's rigid. So let's do the setup where we have this. We'll put damn it. We're putting an upward force on this pin, and then we're tweaking this way. Well, is this thing have any force on it? No. So this was the one thing I was trying to show with pictures. And this is such a... So now we're right at the good stuff, because we just have 2 minutes. Anytime you do a pin, make your connection just loose as hell. Make your pin kind of small. And then if you do put an upward force, or a force any direction, you know what I mean? You can totally see its contact point and what direction it's facing. And then in this scenario... and I think we just have enough just to end it basically right here. But this is kind of the secret sauce, is like, hell yeah, this is pushing down with an F force because I'm applying this FA moment. Again, the whole problem statement says take this pin and push up. So now I'm kind of bummed because it's going to take me 3 hours or another 20-minute videos to go over the different scenarios of like, well, what we're saying is that this is, you can like get rid of the pin and you can just say the force is being put on top of there. Okay, cool. Or you can say get rid of the pin and then the force is being applied to this one. Well, if this one has an upward... anyway, but I think just one step at a time, and this is kind of where I want to end it, is if I put an upward force on the pin, put the FA here, hell yeah, you can totally tell that this one is totally in contact, where this one is just freely floating. So if we pretend like the statics problem is in outer space, this bar over here, you know, even though it's just rigid, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. This pin could just be totally centered without any contact at all to this cantilever beam. So hell yeah. And if there was another pin right here, this bar would just be loose as can be. So again, we'll just show you that one more time. But that's it. That's all I can do for this video. I thought I was going to be able to cover all 3 scenarios. But hell yeah, I just wanted to make a video. And we did it. You know what I mean? So booyah. Guess we'll show you that one more time. So we have this FA force. I'm pulling up with a F force. And there's just nothing going on this side. So for this problem statement, when you do the internal forces, there's nothing going on. There's no shear forces. I mean, it's just a massless rod that's perfectly floating. And there's no shear forces. There's no moments. and there's no normal forces in this problem anyway. So alright, hell yeah. So that's 20 minutes. It's kind of interesting just having this feature on my camera that can actually do 20. And so we got 5 more seconds. So anyway, thanks for joining me. And guess what? That's a video.